Well, hi guys, welcome to another episode of Ghost Towns around Southern Illinois, Western Kentucky, and Southeast Missouri, because we're going all over the place. But these are places that some of them are still viable, like today. There's still a town there, but the history of the town has totally changed from what it used to be. So today we are in Stonefort, Illinois. There's a sign, Stonefort, Illinois. And it's located on Route 45, south of Carrier Mills. And Stonefort didn't really start in this location, though. And to find out what happened, we're going to have to go back a few years and go a few more miles down the road. So stay tuned as we do this history of Stonefort, Illinois. And be sure to like and subscribe as you go along. Joseph Robinson built a log cabin in 1831 and hired T.A. Jones, the deputy county surveyor, to plot a village around that log cabin. The village was named Cornersville. Oscar Pennell built the first house in Cornersville. Alexander and Charles Nyberry opened the first store in 1859. Thomas Smith opened another store the following year. By 1872, it had 3 stores, a school, a lodge hall for free and accepted Masons, the Seventh-day Baptist Church, at about 250 in population. However, the post office opened February 15, 1858, with Willis Stucker as postmaster, and was established under the name Stonefort. 2 words. The space was later removed. The Seventh-day Baptist Church still stands to this day on Old Town Road. Stonefort was named for the ancient stone fort nearby. Construction of this fort is variously attributed to the Spanish soldiers in the 16th century, to Aboriginal inhabitants preceding the Indians, and even to George Rogers Clark's company marching to Kaskaskia in 1778. The walls once measured 6 feet in height, 6 feet in width, and were arranged in a semicircle with the southern side an unscalable cliff. If not a defensive fortification, it may well have been a game trap. Another account says that Stonefort's first house was that of Marion Joyner, and his son, Frank Joyner, was born there. The Joyner Cemetery is just down Old Town Road. During the late 1860s, Stonefort looked forward to becoming a thriving town when it became a station on the Cairo and Vincennes Railroad. Unfortunately, in 1872, the Cairo and Vincennes Railroad was built 2 miles west of the city in the town known as Bolton. Bolton grew into a village about 1847 in the southeast corner of what was then Saline Precinct, now Stonefort Township, but entirely within Williamson County. It did not grow very fast, nor very far, but it had a log house where the Joyner brothers kept store. There were only 3 dwellings at the time the second village was surveyed. The 3 residents were Wesley Trammell, J.M. Barber Sr., and Ira Keel. But Bolton was a post office established February 22, 1849. 9 years before Stonefort. Wesley Trammell, who married Cynthia Ann Buckner, inherited the post office upon Mr. Buckner's death, and in 1861 moved into the house vacated by Mrs. Buckner. The post office was discontinued December 28, 1864. Bolton was laid out at nearly a 45-degree angle with the cardinal points. The streets ran parallel or perpendicular to the railroad. The names of native trees were given the streets: mulberry, poplar, white oak, cedar, chestnut, and walnut, and you can see the same streets today. The railroad station was on the Saline County side, and great rivalry began between the Williamson and Saline County residents. Alexander Vickers, one of the owners of Bolton Townsite, moved a building from Stonefort and opened a general store, the first in the village, on the site later occupied by the Brick Bank building. The railroad erected a makeshift station. Harper and Norman kept saloon in an ordinary boxed house. That later became the first store of the Pulley brothers, sons of the mill owner. Barton Pulley moved his gristmill from the old town in 1874, but it burned after 10 years. Marion Joyner left his family in their home at Old Stonefort and came over to do the building and carpentering required by the new village. Later, he built a new home in the new village, and his son became one of the country school teachers before entering the banking business. William H. Ridgway built the first new store where his two sons, William J. and John L. Ridgway, joined him in business until they both had stores of their own. After 10 years, the older son moved to his farm in the north part of the township. John L. Ridgway built a roller mill when the new method of making flour began to be used. A bank was opened with Lucas Joyner as cashier and Robert M. Hundley of Marion as the financial backer. Mr. Joyner married Miss Jane, a daughter of Wesley Trammell of Bolton. The post office at Old Stonefort was moved over to the new town and retained the same name. Among the early postmasters were Alexander Vickers, Calvin S. Blackman, and John L. Ridgway. The railroad also called its station Stonefort. Further complications arose when the citizens of Old Stonefort, a Saline County village 1 mile east, began to move to the new town site on the railroad. They brought Stonefort Post Office, established February 15, 1858. The railroad named the station within the plat of Bolton Stonefort. The village of Bolton, with 350 residents, was incorporated June 21st, 1875. Another town and post office in northern Illinois had taken the name Bolton since the old town's post office was discontinued in 1864. But Van Trammell was born a Bolton man, son of the Bolton postmaster. He had paid for a town of Bolton to be surveyed and platted, and he intended to live in Bolton. He continued to make out deeds for lots in Bolton. Not until 1936 was the difficulty ended when the village councils chose Stonefort. The Bolton name can still be seen by visiting the Bolton Cemetery. Interesting note, the McDaniels here are part of my family. If you go back to my family tree, there's a lot of really old stones here. Part of the original town lay in Section 25 of Stonefort Township, but the greater part lay in the adjoining section of Saline County. James M. Trammell, another son of the old postmaster, soon platted an addition to the west. Other additions, made chiefly by the Trammell family, increased the Williamson County share of the town until it is the larger. Much confusion arose from the town lying within the jurisdiction of two counties, and the citizens decided that any appeal from the village court would be taken to Marion, even though the offense occurred within the Saline County part of the town. The schoolhouse, built in 1873, stood in Williamson County and was under the care of that county's superintendent. This area here in Stonefort is where the annual Soldiers and Sailors reunion is held. There is a marker here that honors the supreme sacrifice that our veterans have made. And there's a building that has lots of the food booths. The carnival sets up out here. There used to be an amphitheater stage more central there, but things have been changed and updated. But the Stonefort reunion is still a real and active event. Usually the end of August, around there, every year. Of course, dealing with COVID, things didn't happen for a couple of years, but I'm sure that this year we'll see activity out here once again.